The Zenthari Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display showed another colony world burning. Ambassador Kalera's crystalline features trembled with barely contained rage as she watched her people's ships explode in brilliant flashes against the dark void of space. The Vorthan Empire had struck again, and this time they had brought something new to the battlefield. 60,000 civilians, she whispered, her voice carrying the weight of each lost soul. 60,000 Zenthari who trusted our defenses to keep them safe. High Admiral Thex leaned forward in his seat, his 6 arms folding in a gesture of deep concern. The Mollari were known throughout the galaxy for their strategic brilliance, but even their greatest minds had failed to find a solution to the Vorthan threat. Their bioweapons are unlike anything we've encountered. They don't just kill, they consume. Every world they take becomes a breeding ground for more of their creatures. The hologram shifted to show the aftermath of the attack. Where once stood proud Zenthari cities with their soaring crystal spires, now only twisted landscapes remained. Black, writhing masses moved across the surface like living oil, converting everything they touched into more of their kind. The Vorthan had unleashed something that fed on life itself, growing stronger with each world it devoured. We've lost 17 colonies in the past month, announced Council Leader Vox, his reptilian features etched with desperation. Our fleets can barely slow them down. Every time we think we've found a weakness, they adapt. It's as if their bioweapons learn from our attacks. The assembled representatives of the Galactic Alliance sat in stunned silence. The Zenthari were known for their advanced technology, the Mollari for their tactical genius, and the Corvan for their unbreakable will. Together, they had maintained peace in this sector for over 3 centuries. Yet against the Vorthan swarm, they were helpless children. What of the other systems? Asked Ambassador Kalera, grasping for any thread of hope. Surely someone has developed countermeasures. Admiral Thex's expression darkened. The Helix Confederation fell last week. The Vorthan consumed their entire sector in 72 hours. The survivors spoke of creatures that could reshape themselves at will, beasts that seemed to anticipate every weapon used against them. A new voice cut through the despair. There is one system we haven't approached. The words came from Representative Nix, a shadowy figure whose species rarely spoke in council sessions. The Umbral were observers by nature, preferring to watch and analyze rather than act. When they spoke, others listened. The Soul System, Nix continued, her voice barely above a whisper. The humans. The chamber erupted in incredulous murmurs. Humans were barely spacefaring, having only achieved interstellar travel within the past century. Their technology was primitive by galactic standards, their society chaotic and violent. Most species considered them a curiosity at best, a potential threat at worst. The humans? Thexa's voice carried clear disdain. They've barely left their home system. What could they possibly offer against an enemy that has crushed civilizations 1,000 times more advanced? Representative Nix stepped forward, her form shifting slightly in the dim light. Because they are the only species in known space that evolved as persistence hunters on a death world. While we developed technology to overcome our environments, they adapted to become the ultimate predators. Their entire planet is a testing ground that has been producing killers for millions of years. Kalera felt a chill run through her crystalline structure. Earth's reputation was well known among species that bothered to study it. A world where the weather could kill, where massive predators ruled land and sea, where even the plants had evolved deadly defenses. Most galactic surveys had classified it as unsuitable for intelligent life, yet somehow humans had not only survived but thrived. You're suggesting we ask primitives for help? Admiral Thexa's disbelief was evident in every word. I'm suggesting we ask survivors for help, Nix replied coldly. The Vorthan bioweapons are impressive, but they evolved in sterile laboratory conditions. Earth's creatures evolved in constant warfare against each other and their environment. Every species on that planet has been locked in an arms race for survival that makes our current crisis look like a minor disagreement. Council Leader Vox leaned back in his chair, considering the proposal. The Corvin had survived by never dismissing any potential advantage, no matter how unlikely it seemed. What do we know about human capabilities in warfare? Nyx activated her personal display, showing recordings from human conflicts throughout their history. They are relentless. They don't fight to win battles, they fight to completely destroy their enemies. They've weaponized everything from diseases to weather patterns. When they go to war, they bring their entire planet's ecosystem with them. The recordings showed human soldiers in various environments, but what caught the Council's attention were the creatures fighting alongside them. Dogs that could track scents across impossible distances. Birds that could carry messages through enemy territory. Horses that charged into battle without hesitation. Even their domesticated animals were warriors by galactic standards. More concerning is what they haven't domesticated, Nyx continued. Their oceans contain creatures larger than our battleships. Their forests hide predators that can remain motionless for months before striking. Their deserts breed animals that can survive without water longer than our ships can stay in hyperspace. Ambassador Calera studied the images with growing amazement. She had seen recordings of Earth before, but always focused on human technology and culture. She had never considered their biological companions as anything more than pets. Now, viewing them through the lens of warfare, they seemed far more sinister. There are organisms on Earth that can survive in the vacuum of space, Nyx added. Others that can withstand radiation levels that would kill our most advanced AI systems. Some that can regenerate from almost complete destruction. And all of them have been shaped by billions of years of competition against equally deadly neighbors. The chamber fell quiet as the implications sank in. The Vorthan bioweapons were terrifying because they consumed and adapted. But they had never faced opposition that had been adapting for eons before they were even conceived. The humans also possess something else we lack, Nyx said, her voice growing softer but more intense. They have no concept of acceptable losses. When their young are threatened, they become something beyond rational thought. They will sacrifice everything to ensure their offspring survive. It's a survival trait that has served them well on their death world. Admiral Thex shifted uncomfortably. You're describing monsters, not allies. Exactly, Nyx replied. The Vorthan have never faced monsters. They've faced civilized species with rules of engagement and moral limitations. Humans fight like the apex predators they are, and they've had millions of years to perfect the art. Council leader Vox made his decision. Prepare a diplomatic mission to Earth. We need to understand what they're capable of before the Vorthan reach our core worlds. Sir, Admiral Thex protested, even if they agree to help, what could they possibly do? Their weapons are chemical propellants and primitive energy systems. Their ships move slower than our cargo vessels. Calera studied the display showing Earth's creatures once more. Something about their predatory efficiency reminded her of the Vorthan bioweapons, but these beasts had earned their lethality through genuine trial by combat. Perhaps, she said slowly, we're thinking about this wrong. We've been trying to fight the Vorthan with technology. What if we fight them with biology? The idea sent ripples of unease through the chamber. Biological warfare was considered barbaric by most galactic civilizations. It was unpredictable, potentially uncontrollable, and violated numerous interstellar treaties. But then again, the Vorthan had already crossed those lines. The humans have maintained an entire planet's worth of biological diversity while developing advanced technology, Nyx observed. They understand both creation and destruction on a level we've forgotten. If anyone can match the Vorthan's biological warfare, it would be them. As the Council debated the wisdom of approaching humanity, none of them noticed the small probe lurking at the edge of their system. The Vorthan had been monitoring galactic communications for months, learning about their enemies' strengths and weaknesses. The probe transmitted its findings back to the swarm fleet. The Alliance was growing desperate enough to seek help from primitives. This information pleased the Vorthan commanders. Desperate enemies made mistakes. And primitives would be easily consumed once the advanced civilizations fell. They adjusted their course toward the galactic core, confident that nothing could stop their inevitable victory. They had never heard of honey badgers or army ants or any of the millions of species that had turned Earth into a crucible of evolutionary warfare. They had never encountered humans who had learned to harness the fury of their world's deadliest creatures. They were about to receive an education that would reshape their understanding of what it meant to be a predator. The diplomatic mission to Earth would launch within hours, racing against time to reach Sol before the Vorthan fleet arrived at the Alliance's core worlds. Ambassador Calera volunteered to lead the mission, driven by the memory of her burning colonies and the slim hope that Earth's monsters might prove more terrible than the ones currently devouring the galaxy. As her ship prepared for departure, she reviewed everything known about human culture and biology. The more she learned, the more she understood why Representative Nix had suggested this desperate gambit. Humans didn't just live on a death world, they had become its ultimate expression. They were persistence hunters who never gave up, pack animals who fought as one, and tool users who could turn anything into a weapon. Most importantly, they were survivors who had clawed their way to the top of the most competitive ecosystem in known space. If anyone could match the Vorthan's biological horrors, it would be the species that had spent millions of years learning to fight monsters. Captain Sarah Chin stood on the observation deck of the human research vessel Darwin, watching the alien diplomatic ship approach Earth. The past week had been a whirlwind of emergency meetings, desperate consultations with biologists, and frantic preparations that most of humanity still couldn't quite believe were happening. They're requesting permission to land at the Australian Biological Research Centre, reported Commander Martinez from the bridge. Apparently they want to see our deadliest creatures in action. Sarah almost laughed at the irony. The aliens had come seeking Earth's monsters, but they had no idea what they were about to witness. The research center wasn't just studying dangerous animals, it was developing biological solutions to problems that conventional technology couldn't solve. Dr. Emily Watson, Earth's leading xenobiologist, joined Sarah at the observation window. She carried a tablet displaying the horrifying footage the aliens had shared of the Vorthan.